but I think today we can be a little more flexible, to say the least. So from your perspective, Tim, how many panels do you have there at the moment?
We currently have, I think, 30 something, 32.
Okay. And have you enrolled them all in this tool, or?
Yes.
Okay. And so what I'll do, and do you have this manual that I just finished writing?
I do not.
Okay, so I'm going to use this, and the same for you, Andrew. I can send these on to you afterwards. I've written 5 manuals for these panels so far. This is the longest one. It's actually on how to use the device manager. There's one on using the panels, well, Q-Series and RS Plus. There's one on using Newline Engage, which is even longer, which is the learning tool, the browser-based learning tool for creating lessons and things like that. It's one on deploying panels and how to deploy them in different scenarios like hybrid and so on. And then this one is about how to manage them. So I'll use this as kind of a way to go through it. But the good thing about this is if there's anything you don't remember or pick up, I've made it, this is very detailed. It goes through a lot of things in here as well. So I'll send this to you afterwards so you can actually look at this at your leisure as well. So, and start off by explaining what this is, and I'll actually refer to this manual a few times because I've got some nice screenshots in here that will explain how this works. So the display manager, it's actually based around a technology called Radix or Radix. I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's the technology it's based on. And they actually white label it, and a lot of companies white label that technology. The reason I mention that is you're going to get the odd message from Radix or Radix, and you're going to go, why am I getting this message? Because this is from Newline. So they white label this this tool, and it manages devices that you can manage Chromebooks and panels. And yeah, when you think of it, this is just a big Android tablet you're essentially managing here. So that's what it is. Now, when you first get your, the process for your panels is you create an account with this tool, and you actually go to, let's go down here, newline.glbth.com. Now, you don't have to remember this stuff because I'm going to send you the manual, and all you have to do is click on it and you'll be able to go to it. But that's to set up your account, and you register your account from that. What you do then is you then enroll your panels into it. So there's this tool, and I've already enrolled my panel, so I have to show you in the manual because I've already enrolled my panel, so you can't see it. But essentially, this is what you see here. So you go, that's the only time you actually have to go to the panel, and you actually click on this thing that says Newline Display, but it's actually truncated. It's Newline Display Management. And by the way, sometimes it's called Display Manager, sometimes it's called Device Manager. Marketing can get upset somewhere at Newline when they work out what it is, but you just do that, and then all you do is you type in your particular domain, and that'll enroll the panel. So then that panel is going to appear, and that's all you do to get this thing set up initially. So if you look here, actually, I'll make this a bit smaller, so I'll go back to this later. So once you've enrolled your panel, you then go to this site. You add, this is my name, admin, and it's always admin, and I've got second gear as my domain. So I go into this, and then I log in. And when you log in, all of your panels are going to appear in here. Now, I've got 3 devices in here, added into here. What we'll do is we'll go through kind of some of the things you may not have seen. If there's any questions on something you specifically want, especially from your perspective, Tim, because you're already using this about how to manage these, just stop me and I'll answer them if it's something you want to pick up, because typically I cover managing the settings on the panel, policies on the panel, sending messages to the panel, which people seem to like doing when they want to send emergency messages and things like that, which can be quite cool. Installing applications, managing users. So there's a few things. And even when, I don't know if you're familiar, when you list these panels, you can actually set them up as groups. So you can set up only certain groups of panels. You can tag them so that you can tag them to school, you can tag them to different users and things like that. But if there's anything particular you want to pick up, and same with you, Andrew, is anything particular you want to pick up, just give me a holler as we go through. Okay. So these are my panels here. These are 3 panels I've got. The one which is over, which you see on the left there, or actually it's behind me, is actually this one here, second Q-Series Canada. When you enroll them, it give you the hardware ID and things like this, and it will actually give you the option here. You can actually edit the name. So it makes sense to give them a name so you know where the darn things are. You can change a few these columns, and it's a little kind of innocuous icon up here. It says columns. If I tap on that, this is the column. Now, I turn off OS because it's going to be Android, whatever you do. So it's kind of a waste of space putting that on there. But the hardware ID is not a bad idea. Right at the bottom here, you can actually get the, where is it here? The serial number, which is a nice thing to have on here, especially if you're looking for support and so on. You can see what tags have been associated with it. So I've got tags I can associate with my panels. So this, yeah, it's kind of an innocuous little icon up there, but it's worth using. What you can do is apply tags to your panels. And if I click on the three dots over there, see where I find where it is down here. It says tags down here. So the way you do this, the easiest way to do it is when you put a panel in, click on those three dots, come down here and click on tags. And this is just a new panel. That's one of the things I've got in there, but you can add different tags into these things. So for example, I can add Canada as a tag to this one here. And what this allows me to do is I can actually then create groups. And the groups mean that I can say, what are the Canada panels? If I say Canada panels, it's only going to show the panels which are tagged with Canada. If I say all devices, it's going to show me all my panels. If I show demo devices, it's going to show me which ones are used for demos. So it means if you it's a really neat thing to do, because if you want to, for example, let's go back to all. If you want to have your panels managed and you just say, I just want to update, I want to look at all my Q series panels, or I want to look at all the panels that are in the middle school or something like that. If you have those tags, you can then do that, and then you can send a message just in this list, send a message, or just upgrade, or upgrade the firmware, or restart, or add an application to all the middle school panels. Again, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it makes it easier to manage all of these things. So again, you just add tags, and you do that by going click here, scroll down, and click on tags. When you add tags, you can then create groups. You can add a group to this, and then I can say, what's the group name, what's the group description, and what tags do I add to that? And then you can filter them, which is quite useful. I've got 3, but if you've got 30 panels or 100 panels, it's quite useful. Let's go here, and I'll keep referring to this manual as we go through, because it'll give me a chance to kind of cover things for you. On this main interface here, there's all these things along the left side. A lot of these things will be grayed out until you actually select a panel. So if you see up here, all these things like device settings and policies and workflows, until you select a panel, they're not relevant. They're not going to be highlighted. If you ever want to select all of your panels, just click on this top one here. It'll pick all the panels in that list, or the filtered list, whatever you've done. Across here, I'll make this a bit bigger. If you click on these 3 lines, you can make it bigger. There's a dashboard. This is just showing my panels. This is a big picture of my panels. It tells me I can work out where they are. I can see the last time they used. I can see the most used applications, which is not a bad idea. Quite a useful thing to do. OS distribution, not going to be very relevant because it's all Android. Devices, that's a list of devices. The commands, these are the commands I have sent to the panel. So I've sent a happy birthday, I've sent a tornado warning. I was doing some presentations yesterday where people asked me about those things. So this will list all the commands that we sent. Users, you can make multiple users in here. And obviously the advantage of doing that is I've got a user in here, for example, tagged as second gear. If I tap on the user's name, I see down here, I can look at the permissions for that user, and this user is my support person. So they can look at the telemetry of the panel, the health of the panel, and they can do remote control. They can manage power of the panel, so they can restart it, and they can install packages. So and again, you don't have to remember all this stuff because it's in the manual as well. But the nice thing about doing this, if you create a secondary user, you can actually have that secondary user, and when they come to these, they will only see, if they're on this, let's go to the home page of this, they will only see the things that they can do. So for example, if I select this one, they may not see advanced messaging, because I've only said you can take remote control and you can update packages. Really nice to have that though if you want somebody who's supporting you. So you can add another user, and then you can have somebody else helping you out as a support person. With any of these things, just so you're aware, if I go back up on here in my manual, because again, I don't want you to think you have to remember everything in here. So I can find it in here. Installing remote control, creating and managing additional users. So this is indexed. All you have to do is go to create a new user. It'll tell you exactly where you go. So you have to, it's actually massively unintuitive because you actually click on the plus sign. It's a plus sign, which is that little thing there is when you add new users and things like that. So, but what I'll do is you'll get this manual afterwards, so you don't have to remember all of these things. So add a new user, and then so you're going to click on the users one and then add a new user from there. But again, you don't have to remember all these things, but the new users are great because you can have supporting users as well as just yourself. You can also, for example, give a user access to only certain panels. Okay, this is all in the manual, but it means that you could have this person manages the panels for this district, this person manages the panels for this district, things like that. Has the right to do things on there. So it makes it a bit easier for those things. Down here, repositories, we'll spend some more time in here later, but this is where you can put packages and things like that you want to install. Assets is kind of a little hidden one here, but if you click on assets, these are assets I can upload into my panel, up into here so that I can actually send them. So I've got a happy birthday song. If I go in here, look at it. You probably can't hear it because it's coming through my headphones, but I can load assets into here. So if I say add new down here, I can load assets, and it could be an image, it could be a piece of audio. So I can put those into there. And the nice thing about that is then I create this library. I've got tornado siren, I've got happy birthday, I've got funky music, which I play when I'm sending certain things. I've got some pictures. So example, where's my tornado warning? Yeah, you know, this is a graphic, or tornado warning graphic. So I've got this graphic I loaded into here. So you can make a repository of all of your content. And it's, again, it's a little bit hidden away. But under here, under repositories, we have assets in there. Packages are packages I can install from the Google Play Store. I'll look at that more in detail later. Policies, I don't use this as much, but for example, I've got a policy in here which blocks all the news apps on my panel. So policies are things you can apply. So if I look at this, what happens is, again, it's all in the manual as well, but put it on here. Yeah, block list. So I've got a block list here. And what I've done is I block all of the news applications on the panel by using this one. One trick with this, if you don't see how to add one, take your thing to full screen, and you may see that when it goes to full screen, the little plus signs appear. It's quite, if you don't work that out, it takes an awful long time because you can't see the plus signs. So when you add something, to the block list, you just click on this plus sign. But unless you're at full screen, the little plus sign doesn't appear, which is a little bit frustrating. Just be aware of that. Again, we'll cover these, but I've got, you know, allowing certain things. I've also noted in the manual things that don't work. There are some policies, and I'll add a new policy, a new Android policy. There are certain things like, for example, blocking things on the web where you can say allow list and block list. I cannot make that work. So if you, for example, want to block CNN.com from your panels, I cannot make that work. To my mind, it doesn't work, so I've reported that. That is listed in the manual as a does not work in here. So those are policies. So all these repositories, you kind of get used to playing with them bit by bit. Advanced messaging, we'll look at that later. Kiosk means you can turn your panel into a kiosk so that it is essentially a dumb terminal where you can just have maybe one or two applications available. You might want to put it in the lobby for people to play with. We'll show you remote execute as we go through as well. You can schedule certain things to happen. I'll give you some caveats on that as we go through. Account settings, nothing really in here. A couple of things to understand though. If I go to account settings, two things of relevance in here. Remote control is at the top. If this is checked, when you try to take remote control of the panel will say, so Ian would like to take remote control of your panel, allow or decline, or deny, allow or deny. If this is unchecked, when you try and take remote control of the panel, it will immediately let you take remote control of the panel. That is purely up to you whether that works for your culture. The other one that's used down here is device pairing. Most of the other things in here, not terribly relevant. And again, in the manual, I do exactly this. Here's what's relevant, here's what's not. But device pairing, you can set up a pairing code. And you'll need this if you, for example, want to pair it to a speaker or something like that, if you've got other device you want to pair to. Interestingly, if you have set this, you'll also probably need that code when you enroll your panel into this display manager. So if when you enroll your panel, it says, see if I've even got, if I even kept this as my manual as a snapshot, just see. Yes, see, if you look at this one here, if you actually, if I don't think yeah, it looks like I don't even ask for a pairing code, but if you need a pairing code when you do this thing, it's actually going to be this little pairing code here. Doesn't, yeah, not everybody uses that, but it's kind of worth understanding. The reason I mentioned it, it's kind of hidden away down here under account settings. Okay, all in the manual as well.
Can you pair other screens?
Never tried to pair another screen. I paired my speakers and I paired that. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need to pair another screen. If you want, for example, if you wanted to mirror the screen to one to another screen, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually better ways. There's a thing called Newline Broadcast. which is an app on the panel. And when you use that, it will broadcast to up to 200 separate devices. It goes to the browser. So all you do is open up a browser on the other screen and just type in the code, and it will then mimic that. The other way to do it is we have an HDMI out on the panel, which I use. In fact, that's what you see with that little kind of figure in the panel in the bottom. HDMI out means you can just take an HDMI out, plug it into any other screen or any other panel, and it will just mirror it to there. So you can hardwire it or you can broadcast it wirelessly. And that's cloud-based, by the way, so it doesn't even have to be on the same network or in the same location. Does that make sense? Okay, it makes sense. Okay, let's go here. Let's go across the top of this thing here. So across the top here, remote control, that allows me to remote into the panel, whichever panel I've selected. If you select more than one panel, it'll get grayed out. You can't remote into two panels at the same time, which makes sense. If I click remote control, it'll open up on here, and it'll say connecting. Now, if you notice, I didn't have it set to allow or decline. What's happened here is on here on the right side, you can see it. And then what I can do on if I do it remotely, if I click on the cog there, my panel is going to change. So this is me just going through, and I can change the display and theme. So you can just remote control and help somebody remotely from here. If that setting down here, account settings, so if you ever see it, if this, you require permission when you take remote control. If I take remote control this time, it'll do the same thing, but on the panel, it'll say, Newline would like to take control, and I can allow it from here on the panel, and then I can take remote control of the panel. You can do everything. Yeah, you can pretty much do everything on here. One of the tricks is because normally you swipe with your finger in here. So what you have to do is learn to swipe with the mouse. That makes sense because you're essentially swiping with your finger. So imagine touching and swiping with the finger. There's another little thing in here, which I'm going to do here. Is these little arrows down here. Most of this, not very helpful because although you can move focus around using these things, it doesn't highlight what you're focused on, which doesn't help you terribly. So you're kind of guessing. What is good here is the plus minus here, because that's the volume. So that allows you to edit change the volume on the panel. So if you ever get in that situation where you quickly want to lower the volume, you can change it from there. And it's just this little hidden thing here. Again, all of this is in the manual. But remote control, very valuable tool, very easy to do, just to remote into your panels, your panel selection. Across the top, so that's remote control. And let's go device settings. Device settings. I've created a bunch of device settings for my panel. So, for example, I'll add one here just so you see how it works. When I can set up a new setting, and down here there's some Wi-Fi things, so I can change the Wi-Fi. Most of these you don't use. Security I don't use. General is quite useful, but there's a trick to these, which is somewhat counterintuitive. So down here, let me find something. Home button disable. So on the panel, in the actually, I was testing this. I actually disabled a couple of things. Let me turn them back on again. Nope, not that one. Toolbar. Let's turn on my toolbar. So the home button on that menu on the side there, you can disable that, but it's worth understanding the way this button, when it's in the middle, it's in neutral state. This means yes, disable the home button. So yes, turn off the home button. This means no, do not turn off the home button, which is, it gets a bit counterintuitive after a while because there's things down here. Disallow install apps. This is a good example. If I check this, I can say yes, disallow install apps, which is kind of you're getting to double negatives. But if I check that one, it means nobody on the panel can install applications. If it's there, it's like, no, do not disallow install apps. So you kind of feel like you're saying yes, disallow, but you're saying no, do not disallow it. So just be conscious of the logic or the lack thereof in there. It can become a little confusing. But there's an awful lot you can do in here. So for example, if I set this one over here and I create that as a policy and send that to the panel, nobody can install applications on that panel. So not a bad thing to understand. So there's all those things. Most of these we don't use. You can set device wallpaper from here. So if you want to change the background wallpaper, you can set up a policy, and then what you do is you have to add a wallpaper file. Now, of course, the wallpaper file, you can either upload it from here, or you can actually just start using that from your assets, but you can upload a wallpaper file from here and stretch it on the screen. That will change the background. just understand it's not dynamic. You would typically restart the panel because it needs to be restarted for the wallpaper to change, which means I won't do it here, but I could come down to, let's see if it's down here, not lock screen. Find half these Newline there. So I got some of these things. You can actually do that. You can actually, I restart the panel separately. But show the toolbars, turn off the toolbars, turn on the toolbars. Why would you ever do that? Well, if you set this up as a kiosk, you might want to turn off the home button and the toolbars so people can't actually see that. So you can have all of these commands which configure your panel in a certain way. This is also where you install certificates, by the way, if you need to. But those are my device settings. And just so you can see example ones, mute volume and disable volume controls. So I can actually, if I set it up as a kiosk, I can actually, let's see where I did it. Down here, probably in this one here. Oops, down here, probably. Oops, still missed it. That one there is where it is. So this is where I can mute. So here I can see I mute the volume and I do that. So you got things like you can mute volume. You can do an awful lot of powerful things with this. Unmute, set the wallpaper, stop people installing applications, allow people to install applications, turn it off on Saturdays, all of those things. So there's an awful lot you can do from device settings. Only caveat, try not to be overly clever with this because you can get yourself into quite a mess by turning off an awful lot of things and then trying to work out how to turn the darn things back on again. But the one that's really popular from that one there is turn off the panel at a certain time. Send that to all of your panels. So you can set, for example, if I do this one here, let's see what I've got here, auto power off. So here, for example, I've got one here. If I edit this, and I think I've got it under, let's see where I did it. I think I did it at the bottom of Newline. Well, this does, as I've said, yes, I want to turn the panel off. And then I say it turns off at 9, every panel turns off at 9 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Friday. And what that means I can do is with one click, I can send that and it will configure that whole panel. And if I do it to all my panels, I can say for the sake of economy, turn all the panels on. And for Tim, in your case, you've got 30 panels. You can set that. All 30 panels in one click will be then set. And if you had to do that manually, you'd have to go to settings, go down to power, auto power off is on, and then power off time. I'd have to set this. You have this clock. You have to do this. You have to select which clocks they are and go through this and then move this around, which I think. So, oh, I hate it when I do that, cancel. Even when I know how to do it. Go ahead.
That was extremely helpful for me to figure that out because all of ours are connected via Wi-Fi. So if I applied a policy and the teacher had it turned off, it wouldn't apply. So,
but it will when it turns on. When it comes on, which is so when weird.
I went out there, I said, turn all displays off at a certain time. And then I had them all power on at like midnight. So I know that at least every device would get any kind of changes. And I made it on my policy.
Perfect. Yeah,
and then
it's good.
Back off afterward. So,
and the other thing you worked out, I'm sure you worked out as well, is that when you turn it on, it applies all the policies you sent, even if it's been turned off, which is quite funny because if one of the first thing you set was restart, it turns on, then immediately restarts and installs a bunch of applications. There's a wonderful logic to it, but until you understand it, it's quite disturbing how it works. But no, it's perfect. You're spot on. Thank you with that. So device settings you've got in here. Policies, again, I've been through these things about blocking news apps and things like that. It does work well. Let's go in here. I remember here, I think I did that one because some of them work, but if I do block news apps in this one here and send it to the panel, I think over to my panel. I can't remember which one I did it. Yeah, so if you look here, there are no news apps in here. The first one you see on this one is Prime Video. If I undo that, because once you've created one of these, you actually want to have one which says unblock news apps as well. But I've blocked all the, and it works very quickly. It allows you to do that, so you can actually do that. I've got an unblock in here somewhere as well. But it's nice to be able to block those things and turn those things off. If I, for example, go back into here, block here, block list, go to full screen because I can't see the pluses, and I say to CNN, let's allow CNN. I'm not making a political judgment here, by the way, just doing that. And then if I block news apps again, I think what should happen is, maybe it won't do that, but let's see. No, I'd have to unblock CNN, but you can actually do this. You can unblock, you can block. I've actually if you look on my workflows, I've actually got, for everyone I've got a block, I've got an unblock. For everyone I've got a turn off, I've got a turn on. So you can duplicate these processes. But very powerful. Just be a little careful with the policies. One thing I have found, it's just, and again, this is if you do allow, if you set something up to go on a trigger, we have triggers we can set up in here. I don't know if you play with this, Tim. I found that triggers can mess things up. So if you schedule a trigger, to example, for turn off the toolbars, it continues to turn them off. So I'm a little leery of scheduling things with a trigger. I turn on, turn off with the panel is great, but if you actually use this thing here where you can schedule a trigger, as you see, I stopped using it because I found it. I turned off my toolbars with the trigger, and then I had to reinstall the firmware to turn them back on again. It was when I was writing the manual. The manual's 40-something pages long, and by the end of it, I destroyed my panel. So Newline gave up on it. So it was good. I was testing everything you could possibly test, which is the way we should do this thing. The thing I find most useful is workflows. So workflows mean you can set up a whole bunch of things to happen on your panel in one go. So for example, if I select one of my panels and I go to workflow, one of the ones down here is set up a new panel. And if I edit that one, what that does is if I go to set up new panel, first of all, it does the auto power off thing so that you can now assemble all these things into one. So I've got a device setting. When I do the workflow, you can add commands, but the commands can be from all these different places. So the first one it does is to put device settings in and set the power off time. I also then set the wallpaper. So I have a standard wallpaper on all my panels. And then I install Chrome, Google Meet, Amazon Prime, WebEx, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Microsoft Office, Word. So I think I installed something like 12 or 14 applications. And to set up a new panel, all I have to do now is, well, actually to set up all my panels as new. If I just set this one, I do that. I go down here and I say, set up a new panel. If I set up a new panel, it will install all of that in one go. Really powerful workflow to use, so you can just set up all of your panels in one go. I don't know if you've ever played with Sound Siren, Tim. It's a bad idea. It's frighteningly loud, and it doesn't go down with the volume. So don't use that unless you do not touch this button unless you really mean it. But a more practical thing about that is sending emergency messages. So let's talk about messaging inside the panel. There's a thing up here called advanced messaging. I believe there is the only thing I know which you can add on to these panels is there's a messaging. So you could actually have more advanced messaging and actually have basically playing like a TV channel, things like that, notice board stuff. What I've done here is just to go through the things you can do just to kind of make your panel, use it for emergencies and things like that. So a couple of things in here. Tornado warning. So, and again, it's under advanced messaging. And again, for any of these things, just beware that, and again, I'll send you the manual afterwards, but if I go down here, we get to workflows, messaging, sending messages. So sending messages, all of these things, send a message, so advanced messages, things like that. What have I got here? Happy birthday, this one here. So tornado warning, if you just tap on that, it's going to take you down and show you exactly how to set up a tornado warning inside here. So my tornado warning here, if I edit this one, go down here to edit it and what it does. So first thing it says, you can add an image asset. So I've got an image asset, which is you're under severe warning until 9 p.m. Now that's an image. So I don't have to put text over the top of this because this message says it completely. I don't need to do anything. I've actually got a siren here, which plays. Now, if you're doing a tornado warning, you might want to leave it continuously running inside here. If you leave it continuously running, the only way to turn it off is to send an end message. I don't know if you've got this, Tim, but you can't turn it off from here. So what you have to do is, if I run it, and I'll do it, and I'll show you how to do it from here. If I run that one, it will continue going until I do send the message saying this emergency is over. And all that does is go in here and say, send a message saying, and that one displays for 10 seconds. So I'll show you the principle. If there was a tornado warning, I could select all my panels in one go. I'll select the one because I don't want to send a tornado warning to the panels in the Boston office, which could be quite funny, but I'm not going to do it. But I'll send a tornado warning to my panel and I'll apply it.
Yeah.
No, I set that one now to go. I set it to go for 10 seconds. That one I set to go. But that's what it does. If you do have one that doesn't go for just 10 seconds on here, you have to send another one to stop it. So under here, I've also got one, and it just says this emergency is now over. If I send that one, it will just overwrite what was on there, put it on the screen. Doesn't play any music, doesn't play happy sounds and things like that. Goes for 10 seconds. So just in case you come up against this, Tim, if you set up one which is permanent, which is no time scale to it, create a second one that just says this emergency over, send that one, and 10 seconds later, it'll turn it off. You can, of course, because if you had, and I know these are dire circumstances, but if you had a situation where you wanted to have no music to that, let's go to this one here. You don't have to have a sound, because if you were in a lockdown, you may want to turn off to disable or trash the siren, because if it's a true lockdown situation, you may want to say just shelter in place, but you don't want to necessarily broadcast that as audio. You just want to keep it quiet. So again, you do not have to have audio sitting with this. Again, you can finish those things. I've got one just here, just for example. Where is it here? I've got a workflow, sorry. I've also got a workflow, so you can put these in workflows. I've got one down here. The Great Lakes have been redacted. This is just to give you an idea. I'm living by Lake Ontario up in Canada. But all this does as a test is it puts an image of the Great Lakes on there. It puts the text of the Great Lakes have been redacted, and it plays funky music to people, which is quite nice. But the reason I do that one in here is it's just a good example to say if I play that and apply it to the panel, it's going to play funky music. I've turned the music down, but it's going to play that. That one goes for 10 seconds. So this reason you might use that is you might want to include a message with what you do. Good example of that would be a happy birthday. So if I go to my advanced messaging again, I pick happy birthday. Is that the one I did? One here. Happy birthday, but the text is to the people that the birthday is going to be. So send happy birthday. Where is it here? There. Send that to the panel. So now what I've done, it goes away eventually. So the reason for that one is the happy birthday image is a permanent thing, and then I just put text underneath it. So you can actually create an image, have text come up underneath it. So it could be emergency, here's why. But the reason I say these things is it's a neat way to just do very simple things on the screen. Another thing I found, which is an interesting thought, I don't know if you ever played with this, but on your panels, you can put GIFs on your panels. And it's just an interesting thing. This has less to do with the display manager and more to do with just panels themselves. Let me just see if I can get, where's my mouse going across to my other panel? And there it is. My mouse has decided it doesn't want to play with the other screen. There it is. Okay. And I'll show you this just as a thought, and it's just an interesting way of thinking of messaging on the panel itself. Let me just switch things around so you can see what I'm doing. On the panel, when you go to settings, one of the things you can do is you can set wallpaper. So under here, I've got display and theme, and you can change the wallpaper. Typically what you're doing is just saying, I want to put an image on the background of the panel, and now I've got a themed wallpaper for the background of the panel. But what you can also do is set GIFs or GIFs, sorry, I'm being correct, on the panel. So what you can do is, for example, set a wallpaper, which is, in this case, a floating, rotating GIF, so you can do something like that. Interesting thought though, somebody said, because what I also do is, they asked me, can you put pictures of the students on the panel whilst we're waiting, when the panel's kind of passive. So what I did was I went into PowerPoint, created a GIF, and I used Muppets. But this now rotate, this GIF plays right. 10 megabytes is the largest one you can put on there, but it would now rotate pictures of students, in this case of Muppets. Give me a great idea though. Imagine, so this is switch around here. I could make a ticker across the bottom of my panel. I can make a ticker in PowerPoint which just read the text on the messages for the day. Be really easy to do, and I only came up with this yesterday when I was talking to somebody about it. But what it means I could do, and it's just another way of easily displaying messages and maybe not being indiscreet with them. But imagine this is my panel. I could just have this background, create in Outlook, sorry, in a PowerPoint, just a ticker going across as a GIF with GIF files, so it's just text going across. Make that my background. This is always free space, so the ticker will go across there. It could be the sports scores, it could be the menu for the day, it could be anything like that. But a really neat trick just for doing something really simple on the panel. And I'll write that up as a blog post because I think it's a really great way of displaying messages and not, not overwhelming people with what the messages might be, if that makes sense. So a lot you can do with advanced messaging, a lot we can do with the messaging there. It even could be something as simple as have an awesome day. And it just,
Since we're on this,
hang on, let me
messaging
turn off the volume. Sorry, hang on. Volume, sorry.
no, you're fine. Since we're talking about messaging boards, is there a way, because I haven't been able to see it inside the console, to grant rights like these type of rights to certain users through the console so they can control messages to their boards in their school?
Yes, what the user permissions in here.
I've got
yeah, the advanced messaging. So that's what you do. So what you do is, have you created new users? Have you done that before?
I have. I've got other users, but I've had to give them rights to every board out there.
So what you do is you first of all change for user permissions so they have advanced messaging.
All right.
Okay, so that's first thing. Second thing to do now is to set tags to your boards. So, middle school boards or whatever it is. And then what you can do is to say, this is a user. You can say this user only has rights to the second gear boards that are tagged with second gear or tagged with middle school. Does that make sense? And then they'll only see, when they log in, they'll only see the boards and only have the rights to the boards in the list of boards. So again, when this person logs in, they will not see all three devices. They'll only see the devices if it's tagged as middle school in their profile, in their user profile. They will only see the boards tagged with middle school in their list of boards. Does that make sense?
So same thing if you're doing first grade, second grade, third grade.
Exactly.
All the way through.
And again, what I'll do is I always go back to my manual and important because I made a point of going through these things. Creating and managing users, limiting access to specific panels. So what?
Okay.
Sorry,
if it's there, I'll follow through that and get that taken care of, because I think that right now, if I just had to give out trust to say, hey, don't mess with the other panels, just do the ones you're wanting in your elementary. So
I'm just impressed. I got limiting access for user specific panels in my manual. Nothing you can use. So yeah. So
well, that means it's a good manual, and that's the kind of manuals I like, because then I don't have to figure out how to do it.
So anyway, so when they log in, they will not. What happens is they only see the list of their panels. They don't see the list of every panel. They can only access those panels and put messages to those.
So they only have access to what they've been tagged in.
Yes.
Users.
The tags are synchronized with that. Now, one thing it doesn't do is think of your, just as a best practice, think through your tags first, write them down, because it doesn't do a check of second gear capitalized, second gear lowercase, or two separate tags. It doesn't list the tags, so you just have to be quite disciplined with that. But it is quite a nice way of managing access to certain panels.
It's a Linux-based or Android-based case sensitive kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
So you're in the right place. Ad hoc session. Ad hoc session, by the way, the only time that ad hoc session comes up is if you don't enroll your panel. There's a code on the panel, so you can just say ad hoc session, and there's a code on the panel to go into a specific panel with permission. Totally irrelevant if you've already enrolled your panels in here. This thing here, this is just to filter the list, so you can also filter the list yourselves. You can filter, I've done that. Who is online is actually interesting. You don't do it unless you in the menu, you have to get, and last seen is not by default one of the selections in the columns. So turn on last seen, and then who is online will then tell you this here, and it'll put a clock beside their names. And I forget, I actually went through this and did it in here, but green is they're actually online, red is they haven't been online for a while, and I think amber is they haven't been online forever, kind of thing. So there is a thing to tell when the panels have been used. But one of the tricks of that, I'm not going to worry about it, I'll leave it in the manual. One of the tricks of that is that this column does not exist until you actually turn it on. So you have to consciously go down and say, turn on the last seen column. Otherwise it doesn't exist. You can't see that. So then the clock appears, and then you can see by mousing over it how many days ago that particular device was used, which is quite useful. Okay, I'm keeping going. Is this, sorry, well, pause for a second because I was going to go through installing applications in the Google Play Store and things like that. Is this helpful? Are we in the right line?
Yes.
Okay, you're muted, Tim. So you're muted at the moment, Tim. Sorry.
I guess if you can hear me talk, it helps. One of the things that I've got questions and I've had some issues with is we went out and had a complete refresh of all of our interactive displays from smart boards to the Newline.
Yeah.
And we have I've got 35 of the RSs, and then all the new ones have been the new Q series.
Yeah.
Their settings are quite different and their interfaces are different. So now I've got teachers saying, I want one of the new ones. I'm like, sorry, can't do that. But
for what it's worth, I've written manuals on both of those panels if it helps you. So
yes,
I've got a manual for the Q series and a manual for the RS Plus series.
I'll take everything.
And what it does is it covers all the differences. So what I've done is I changed for the Q series wherever the interface changed. So I've also got in my, if you haven't got this already, we go here. If you got my Vimeo suite,
I do not.
so
I will find it.
No, it's passworded, so I'll have to send it on to you.
Oh.
Not that we don't,
Yeah, I take anything because I really want adoption of these to take off. Right now, the majority of the teachers are using them as second monitors, and there's just so much more power to them. And it's kind of sad to see them being used for a Netflix display or YouTube display or something like that.
Well, get me to do a training course with them. I'll run a course with them and run them through all that stuff. More than happy to do that.
Well, we had Q from Newline come out here and do, or was that his name? G. G
Anderson Lake.
Yeah, that's what it was. G. Sorry,
it's confusing.
I was like, I know it's just a letter, but
I know.
He came out and the instructors really enjoyed his class.
Yeah.
But when he came out, I mean, he did an on-site presentation, and it was extremely beneficial. But at the time, we only had like 10 devices deployed. I mean, I would like for someone to come out, and I've never been a teacher, don't want to be, I have great respect for what they do. So how to use this in a classroom would be something that I don't have the best ability to explain. So
I can do that.
Perfect. I'll definitely take you up on that offer. We have PD days coming up at the start of the next school year, and I'll schedule it around that, and I'll get with all the administrators and say, hey, this is something that we're just going to have to make mandatory and make it where they show up and do it.
But I'll send you these anyway, because here, for example, this is turning on the board for the RS Plus, turning on the board for the Q series. So it goes through all the specifics of, the differences in the interface and all that kind of thing. So, and these are all recorded. It goes through in great detail, exactly all the difference between the interfaces and things like that. So I'll take
Yeah, send them. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it goes through using the whiteboard, all of those things, and it covers. And I'll send you the manuals as well, so it works well. Okay, so other things in the kind of what I typically cover in there, and it's related to you, Andrew, as well. There's a couple of ways of installing applications under here. There is a curated application store on the panels themselves, and by curated, think of it as safe search. So it comes with the panel, and if I scroll down here to never find that darn thing. Every time I look at it, I never find the menu.
Yeah, that's the Newline's Play Store.
Yeah, there it is. I don't know why I have a blind spot. But what this does, and it's really for Andrew's perspective, is it allows people to install their own applications, and it's a safe search. So if you search on games, it's going to find appropriate games, notwithstanding Peppa Pig, but it's not going to find Call of Duty and things like that. And then what people can do is they can install them. If you stop the install and you stop them installing, they'll try to install this and they'll say you don't have rights to install. So you can do that. But this is a safe thing. So all of these things, and they've got a lot of good applications on there, but you're not limited to that alone. You can actually install from the Google Play Store. And the way that's done, just to give you a very simple way of doing it, is here's an example. You go to the Google Play Store. You find the application you want to install. So you go here, you find it. I actually find it good to go to the Play Store. This is just my practice. I click on tablet because it just gives me a clue as to, because this is a big tablet. I'll do a search, and I'll search on chess in this case. And this is the one I use. And again, it's in my manual. I'll look for the one I want, which is, I think, where's the world chess one, whatever I had in there, and I had the world chess one in there. So fine. Yeah, you can actually choose which device. This is my device, and it'll find which ones are suited to your device. Because I've logged in this Google, it'll find these are the panels. Not particularly intuitive, but you can kind of work it out. It's the panel. I find the one I want to the game. That's the one I want to install. Just tap on it, and then all I have to do is copy this URL up here. Refresh that, 'cause I just paste it in there. What I want to do then is copy this URL. And again, this is in the manual. When you copy that, then you go to Newline, you go to repositories and packages, and you say, I want to add a new package. Now, again, before you get worried about how you do this, if I go down here, installing, managing apps in Newline Store, Google Play Store. If I go here, this goes through it in great detail what I've just done with you there, how to install to do this. So don't worry, you have to learn this. But then you say the upload method here is going to be from the Play Store. Put the URL in here, say sync, and it will create a package. So essentially it's creating an SDK package for you. So you create that package. Might take 20 seconds to do that or something like that. Creates the package, and then once I've created it, I don't have to keep doing. I don't have, I've done that, so I'm not going to do it a second time because I've already done it. But then it creates this package here, and then all I have to do to send that to the panel is to select the panel I want to use, and go to packages over here. I can go to packages up here, and then I can say install World Chess Championship, and do it, and it will go. Purple means purple means it's applying it, and green means it's succeeded. If I click on that, it's probably going to tell me that it's already on the panel. So I've got it there, maybe not. Yeah, see, and here, so I already installed it, but it's just going to tell me. So it's nice to know. If you ever get a red message, it's going to tell you what the error was when you go down here. So these are all the commands down here. I can click on the command I'm interested in, and I can go here, and it's going to tell me, yeah, we installed it successfully, but it's already installed. So heads up, you're kind of wasting your time, Ian. If you don't have permission to do it, or for example, if it was a user like Tim, you set up different users and they tried to do something they don't have permissions to do, they'll get a red message. It'll tell you don't have permissions to do that. So it's kind of hidden away down here. But if you tap on this, you can see all the things you've done. I've got a lot of greens, which is good. And then a couple of other fun things you can do with workflows and things like that. If I go here to workflow, I'm not sure if you play with this, Tim, with executables, but I can actually say, open a website on all of my panels. And the way this works is, and again, it's all in the manual, it's a remote execute. But this is really nerdy now, but this is an Android command. So you can do this command, and the command, all it needs at the end is the CBeebies website. And what that will do is, if I then say, make sure I've selected the panel. Yeah, selected the panel. Go up to my workflows, find OpenCB. I think this is the right one. Say apply. On the panel, it's going to open the web browser, and it's going to find the CBeebies website. So this is kind of a nice way of forcing something to open on the screen. As it's opened it in a browser, it is now just a full regular browser. So, for example, you could force the website with all the sports scores to open on all the panels. You could open the menu for the day on the panels if you wanted to. It's all written in the manual. Don't worry about remembering it. It's all there. But you can do what you can also do is go back to this again. I'm in a bit nerdy territory now, but I'm kind of giving you what might be fun things to do. Playing the Muppets Mana Mana video on all the panels. So it's going to open that up. It's going to open the website. It's going to open YouTube, and it's going to autoplay. Now, when you open a browser, you cannot automatically unmute when you autoplay. It's a browser setting, if that makes sense. But, and I'll show you the way around this if I do this. Hang on. So that's one way of doing it. But there is another way, which is kind of fun, which is under advanced messaging. Let's see if I can, I've got it written down, but let's see if I can find it here. So I got it here. Let's see if this was one of the ones I did. So this uses advanced messaging. And if I got this right, I've got a couple of these and they're written down. This will actually, is a little more controlled. If I say this one here and apply, if I do it right, it doesn't open it in a browser. This opens it and takes over the whole panel, which is kind of interesting, and plays right away. So just another, an interesting way of doing that. And this is forcing somebody on, just taking over the panel completely. Could be an emergency thing where you want to just have an emergency come up. You go to a website, you've got something set up on a website. I'm pretty sure, sorry, I would happily sing them up. It's all day when I did this, but you have to have fun when you do these things, otherwise it gets too dry. I think in here I also I think I did the same with the CBeebies homepage. Let me just try this again. But this is under advanced messaging, and this now opens up. But the challenge with this is not opening it in a browser. So it's good because it just opens up a screen. It's bad because this is not interactive in any way. You can tap on it, but it's just now, which isn't a bad thing because you can open this thing up on here. You can just, this is now the menu is opening up. It's just opening out. Just make sure it's above the fold because I don't think you can, well, you can go now, yeah, but you can't go anywhere. So this is actually quite useful. It's flat. You can go below the fold. You can scroll the menu, but you can't go anywhere. You can't navigate away from this one page. So again, these are all written in the manual. These specific commands that execute this. And I guess I just want to give you some ideas of some of the really powerful things you can do with this you might not have thought of. Just like everything else in here, if you want that thing to go away, they can make it go away, but you can go down here and you can say, I don't want to say this emergency is now over because that seems a bit dire, but ending full screen, that's a little more polite. Ending full screen display. So that goes for 10 seconds and then turns off. So again, these are all written in dire detail inside here. And I have the specific commands and what they do inside here.
Would the teachers have control of that stuff as well?
They won't have control to send it, but they will have control to turn it off. Yeah, they can actually, if they go up the panel, they can turn it off again and just tap to turn it off. Now, if you really want to be good, you could disable the right to turn it off because you could say, turn off the toolbars, turn off the home buttons, disable all the other things on there. That makes sense. So it's up to you how much. Remember, if you made it a workflow, you could say, turn off the toolbars, turn off the home button, turn off the volumes, put this on the screen. So you're essentially turning it into a kiosk, which kind of leads me just to a final kind of fun thing to finish off, which is, have you played with kiosks, Tim? You know, are you familiar with that? You're muted still, sorry. Sorry.
I have not. I got so much background noise coming on. I hate to just leave it on.
That's okay. It's okay.
I ran into the same problem I think you did with one of them. Is I applied a setting and I was unable to unapply it. So I just did not want to kiosk one of my devices and then tell the teacher good luck.
So the thing with kiosk I found is okay I was able to turn, and I cover it in the manual what does and what doesn't work, but you can turn off the volume very well. You can turn off a lot of things very well. So, but for what it's worth, Andrew, with the kiosk setting, what you can essentially do is, I think I've got a workflow here. Create a kiosk.
You
so
know,
first,
I want the teachers to actually use it and do stuff with it.
Well, the kiosk thing is if you have it sitting, if let's say you had a parent-teacher night and you wanted a panel to be in the lobby, and for example, what I do with this thing, this creates a kiosk.
I have that now. I'm using ScreenFluence for all that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But in the classroom, I think I want to go this route.
Well, even in the classroom, the reason I ended up doing this was that some teachers, they said, we have a parent-teacher. We want the parents to be able to come in and play with the whiteboard just so they can see it, but we don't want them touching anything else on the whole panel. So that's, for example, how I used it. So you're spot on to do it. But I think, let's see, just give an idea. Let's see. So this one actually sets up a kiosk environment, and what this does, it turns off a bunch of controls and things like that. And I install some packages like Sign Up Genius because they can actually sign up for parent-teacher interviews on the panel, which is kind of a fun way of doing it without being able to access anything else on the panel. I think if I go in here just to show you repositories, kiosk, configure parent day kiosk. Look at that. I'm good at my with that stuff. Let's go here. Let's go to kiosk. I do find that some of these things are not easy to see. Oh, I can't see it. Anyway, but you can, if you want to set up like a kiosk, you can enable that. It does do a nice thing with backgrounds and things like that. I can't see where I put it in here, but it does do a nice thing with background. You can set a background, and you can set it so that, for example, all they can do is just use the whiteboard or something like that. And I think it kind of seems to be a good way of doing it. It works rather well. But yeah, for life of me, I can't remember where I put my last one. Probably have too much stuff sitting on this thing here. But a powerful thing to have just in case you want to do it, because some people want to do that. And again, probably back to Tim's point, if you're going to do that, think of sacrificing that panel to the factory reset gods after you do it, because it can be quite. I never actually use that phrase again. But I'll send you this, if it's okay with you, I'll send you this manual afterwards. I'll send you also a bunch of other things I've got. And it does go through an awful lot of what you can do with the panel. More importantly, it tells you an awful lot of things you cannot do. So when I find something you cannot do, I actually list it in here as well. It's not possible to do that, and it doesn't work the way I expect it. Tim, is this helpful? I mean, you know all these things anyway, so.
It is very helpful. I'm looking forward to looking at your manual, because I would not only like to be able to manage these a lot better, but I'd also like to be able to delegate a lot of these things out to either the teachers in the area that run it, or at least utilize these things. They're just so powerful and they're not being used. One question I do have is well, I got lots of questions, but I'll hold it to just one. This one right here I've been working on is the policies. You can only assign one policy per device.
I think because you have to assign a policy, and then the policy has to be negated, right? It has to be turned off again, as I recall. Okay. Whether you can allow, because once you create a policy, then the none appears, so you can actually turn it back off again, right? I don't know if you can apply multiple policies by using a workflow.
And when you showed me the workflow, I think I can accomplish what I'm looking for with that, because I just would like to be able to set settings inside each panel, and without locking them out of the settings, because sometimes they'll need to go into the settings and change some things, but to where they can't change the time, they can't do certain thing. I don't want them to forget the Wi-Fi or try to connect to a different Wi-Fi. Just lock them out of those certain areas.
Yeah. Yes.
I do have different settings for different areas of the school, like the elementary. She wants all of hers to have this certain type of background, all of hers. And then the middle school, like, doesn't care. He's like, whatever, whatever the teachers want to put on their screen, they can. Okay. So having those different settings per school is
that would help.
Helpful. So I didn't know. I mean, a workflow would probably be able to accommodate a lot of those multiple things that need to be set, and then I can just go to the policy and I guess restrict down what they're allowed to change. Yeah, and if you're not sure of anything, just send me a note if you're not sure of a specific one, and I'll see if I can work it out. Yeah, definitely. I definitely appreciate it. It's I'm glad you're going to be a resource. Yeah, no, this is the fun part. And again, if you want to do something with your educators, let's set something up and I'll walk them through, as deep as you want to go in the panel. Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry to monopolize the time there. Not at all.
Thanks, Ian. I have to drop off. I got another meeting I got to be on.
No worries, Andrew. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Tim, if you have any other questions on this, just send me a note on this stuff. I've got a couple minutes now if there's anything specific.
No, not right now. I've got 9 to install this summer, so that workflow is going to be nice to help me get those up to par.
That thing is really good to do the workflow thing, because you can also update firmware and you can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and just to get everything to the same level. My concern now is these are all the newer versions, and right now the majority of our enterprise is all of the RS. So just the changes in the settings, and now the new ones have PIN codes that have to be put in. And I don't know if I want.
No, you can turn that off. No, you can turn that off.
Good, because I'll need that turned off.
By the way, do you know the trick if somebody's changed the PIN code, changed the password?
You do not. Oh, you showed me. I accidentally connected to the session yesterday, and I think you
okay. That's right. You're in there. The up, down, left, right, left, right.
Up, down, left, right, left, right.
Just never. Just never tell a teacher.
Yeah, I don't want them to reset.
But you can, if you want to. One of the first things they did was to turn off the profiles and PIN codes, so you can actually turn those off from admin mode. God, I cannot remember my admin password. because I'm so used to using the up, down, up, down. Oh, I did, look at that. Accounts. Yeah, so if you do single user mode, so you can do that, and I can actually stick
Oh,
to
it's
that.
it's single user mode is what that is.
Yeah, and that's the
Which-
thing. You go to that, you can get rid of the. You don't have to worry about too much about the other stuff.
Well, and that's the other another thing. What are you seeing in other schools? Sam only had one question. You get me going, I'll never stop.
That's good.
As far as
Profiles.
instructors just staying logged into them and then walking out of the room, and they've got their school issued email in there. And
Yeah, I mean, I have not been able to make, one thing I know doesn't work is remove Google accounts. User accounts does not work. Yeah, it does not work. Now, what you can do is set the panels to restart at a certain time. So do a restart so that you kind of log in, that you're getting rid of things that way. But remove Google accounts does not work. And I checked with Newline, and they said, yeah, we don't think it works.
yeah, I've done it, but once they get logged in, it's just like, okay, you need to make sure and I don't know if there's a timeout setting to make them lock automatically, but then the students just sit there and watch them type in the password so then they can get into them. It's from this whole cybersecurity stuff. It's just,
yeah. I mean, to be honest, most of the schools I see turn off profiles.
I have not seen a reason to leave it, except for I do have some teachers who are actually using the built-in browser instead of using it as a second monitor, which I appreciate. But then if they've got to set up a separate login or.
But then the other thing, are you playing much with Newline Engage?
I have not. I didn't realize.
So Newline Engage that's one of the ways you get into this, because Newline Engage, you log into the browser-based version of Newline Engage. So if you look on, forget the panel itself. Let's go across to just here. I'll do it over here. So nice thing. Oh, too many keyboards. Hang on. Okay. This is Newline Engage. So they go into the panel, and they can be on. It's browser-based. It's cloud-based. So it doesn't. You can be on any panel thing, and they log in here. So they log into the panel from here. So they're logging in with their Newline Engage password from here. And I mean, this is an incredible, I'll send you the manual on this as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is an unbelievable tool for all of this work. And it's got spinners, and it's got dice, and it's got randomization, and it's got, the main thing is, if I go to manage boards, I do this remotely. So I can practice this on all my lessons I wrote on my Chromebook. And then what I can do is I can just come across to Newline Engage in here, go to my archive online, go find my Pythagoras lesson, bring that up. And I can use the browser on the panel. I can use the browser on my laptop, the browser on my iPad. There's an inbuilt, it's all there. And then all my lessons, and I bring it up and I'm showing them on the panel from here. And it's got all these, yes, it's got all the nice things like spinners and stuff like that you can put in here. You can embed YouTube into here. You can embed.
So is this their smart notebook replacement?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And what's really nice is this tool now will allow you to import smart notebook files.
Oh, you are going to make so many teachers happy.
This was only a couple of weeks ago. So import smart file, you look here, notebook file.
I was just about ready to put a requisition in, because I still have some teachers who love smart notebook, and I was about ready to purchase another year's subscription for about 8 teachers.
Yeah, so I'll send you my manual on this. So I'll send you my manual on this, and it is, the nice thing about this is students can join you in the class, which is unbelievable. They can join you, can watch all the students while they're working. You can take remote control of their laptop while they're working if you want, with permission to help them fix something. Think of it as Google Docs, but they're working through it on their own time independently. And you can put rewards and you can test them. It's incredibly powerful. So I've got some recorded training on this, and I've also got a manual written on this as well. But that now imports smart notebook files.
And it keeps all of their, because the one teacher, she spent so much time making everything interactive with Smart Notebook.
Yeah.
Which is annoying because they're having to pay for a notebook subscription to be able to use Smart Notebook. But she's written all of her own content, so she's really not getting anything out of it except for the ability to use Smart Notebook. Yeah. She's not using the repositories.
I haven't played with it yet to tell you how good it's only went in the last couple of weeks, so I don't know how much it retains. Okay. But
she will definitely let me know how good it is, because she's she has more interest in getting that. She doesn't want to have to recreate, because when I originally got these, we installed all that Octopus software, and I think that thing were more frustrating to teachers than it was.
Absolutely is. Yeah, and that's why they went to this. And this is the nice thing about this is, again, is even if she does decide to put her lessons in here, Smart Notebooks, there is a huge amount of interactivity in Newline Engage as well, and it is a new product. Remember, Smart Notebooks has gone away. They're replacing it with something different, another tool. So that's eventually going to be end of life as well. But yeah, give it a go. I'll send you my manual, and I haven't got a smart notebook in it yet because I only just added it. But
no, you're fine. I'll give it to her. We're finishing up summer school today, so I'm sure she'll spend the rest of summer playing with it.
Racking it, giving positive feedback, constructive feedback.
She'll give it. She could probably go show my smart notebook how to use their product. She's the only one that's really adopted this display of all the teachers. I've got 2 other teachers who have actually signed up for the training, one-on-one training from Newline. And I'm glad, because I've kind of been the champion for these Newline displays, just for the cost for the district and for the functionality and the open sourceness of it. So I'm really glad that they've went on with this.
Yeah. So
this is a free product for.
It is. This is free to all the people I've Newline. So, and I can do a training course just on this. But let's keep in touch, and we'll think of ways to kind of to phrase it and kind of best ways to leverage this into the organization.
I think it's a great tool, and I'd love to continue to have the teachers using it. We finally got all smart boards are going to be gone this summer. That's what I've got to replace out. So we'll have a total of like 53 Newline displays. So.
And where are you based?
I'm in Missouri.
Okay. Well, if I happen to get down that way also, because I'm traveling for a bit, I'll give you a shout.
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of schools in this area have gone to Newline just because we have a local tech group that we get with all the schools, and they'll sit and say, hey, what are we using? What are you using? And a lot of them went with the Clever Touches or even the smart notebooks displays. Yeah. And when they tell me what they had to pay for those, I'm just like,
oh, it's frightening.
Good luck. Because it's just like,
well, the other thing I don't know if you know about this, this is Android 11 in the Q series.
Yes.
Is that this chipset has been designed that you can upgrade to Android 13 later this year. So it extends the longevity of your board very significantly, because the longevity of board isn't the 50,000 lamp hours. It's like your Mac. It's when you cannot install any more applications on the latest operating system.
I'm kind of afraid with the RS series, since that's the majority of our enterprises, where that I didn't realize it was on the end of its end of life for.
It's got a way to go. It's got a way to go.
And it's still good, and I don't think you can upgrade the Android version on it though.
No,
so
I've never heard of any other panel that's allowed you to upgrade the Android version, other than this one. So the chipset was built for that. Now that said, a lot of the things you're going to run on those things. A good thing about this tool here, this Newline Engage, is browser based. All you need is the browser. So that's gonna always work on there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is these are Android tablets that will last forever. Essentially for us, and especially since this was all purchased pretty much by ESSER funds, there was no way we'd be able to swap these things out. So we only have 6 students, so it's a very small district, and I am the entire tech department, so it's fun.
Well, hopefully we can pass it out, a bit of responsibility to other people, but try that out. If you have any issues, give me a shout.
I appreciate it, sir. I definitely appreciate your time for the second time. Drop off yesterday. I apologize, but
no, it's good. Pleasure. It was good.
I think you had your hands full, so.
Usually.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it.
Take care, Tim.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.